we can make our brains work better. No matter what level we're at, we can get better. What are some sources, some direct food sources of phosphatidylserine? This includes mackerel, tuna, organ meat. So like chicken liver, chicken heart, turkey, beef, greens, beans, potatoes, tomato, turkey, beef, white beans, and soy lecithin. All right, soy lecithin. Now, again, there's a spectrum. I'm just providing some, but these are abundant in many different types of whole foods. I'm just sharing some of the most dense sources. Saturated fat gates, the toll booth that allows saturated fats into the brain as we mature, they essentially shut down. Those toll booths get closed off, but there is a category of saturated fats that express lane, you got the express pass to get through into the brain because it's so important. And this is the category of medium chain triglycerides, or MCTs. Researchers at Yale University published data purporting that MCTs can readily cross the blood-brain barrier and directly be utilized by your brain cells. Another remarkable study, this was published in the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, sought to find out if MCTs could have an impact on improving the conditions of patients with Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease, again, it's considered once the onset happens, all you can do is try to slow it down. You can't get improvement. Listen to this. You have to understand first and foremost that there is an insulin resistance taking place in the brain. This is largely associated with the cognitive decline because your brain uses glucose and there's insulin receptors, insulin activity to nourish the brain cells. But when there's such an abundance of sugar coming into our system, it creates insulin resistance in our brains. And researchers are now calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. The scientists in the study discovered that MCTs are quickly metabolized by the liver, promoting the production of ketones. And these ketones are then able to easily cross the blood-brain barrier and provide an alternative fuel source to the glucose-impaired brain cells of Alzheimer's patients. The scientists found that the consumption of MCTs directly led to improved cognitive function in mild to moderate forms of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive impairment. This is so important. A lot of folks do not realize how quickly Alzheimer's is rising in the top 5 causes of disease for our citizens today. It's right there hovering in the top 5. And we might wonder, how is Alzheimer's, like we can maybe understand a heart attack, we can maybe understand cancer, how is Alzheimer's disease so devastating? How do people die from it? It's not just the loss of cognitive performance and remembering names and places and things like that. This is essentially forgetting how to swallow, forgetting how to walk. It's a devastating condition. It's a devastating disease, and it's skyrocketing. And we need to check ourselves and ask, just really look at what's happening and ask why? Why now? Why is this happening? Why is it so rampant? Something changed. Something happened. And I'm telling you today, a big part of it is a change in our food system. And we can fix this. Again, MCTs are able to directly cross the blood-brain barrier and nourish brain cells. But they also have a kind of alternative route. They take the back alleyway. All right, they have a shortcut. They got the Waze app to nourishing your brain as well by working with your liver to produce ketones that thereby provide that alternative fuel source to fuel your brain that way as well. Now, whole food sources, abundant sources of MCTs are going to be found in things like coconut oil and dairy products, specifically cow's milk, goat's milk. If we're looking at like caprylic acid, it even derives its name, meaning female goat. All right, if we're looking at that particular name and actually where it came from, and other sources as well. All right, so even if you're just like, I can't do it with the milk, with the dairy, all right, there's other sources, but there's also concentrated sources of MCTs, but you just want to make sure that they're derived from real food sources, like a coconut oil derived concentration of MCTs. All right. So many cool things. Of course, those can easily be added to tea and coffee and smoothies and salads and things like that. But MCTs are another one of those foods that can directly nourish that fat brain of yours. And now I want to shift gears a little bit and dive into another subject matter, because it's not just about improving our cognitive performance, but it's also hitting the brakes on the things that are accelerating the decline of our cognitive performance. And there is nothing that is more offensive to our brains than this next category that we're going to talk about. So I want you to really understand your brain absolutely runs on glucose primarily. It's like a primary fuel source. The ketones can be used as an alternative fuel. It's wonderful. It shouldn't even be called an alternative fuel. It's another fuel that it can be used. It's just, but glucose is required for so many processes. And being that your brain is so adamant in getting that glucose. Now, when I talked about the express pass, the multi-lane toll booth for allowing certain types of fats to get into the brain to provide structural fats and also to fuel processes in the brain, if you want to multiply that times 100, how many gates or toll booths there are for sugar getting into your brain, it's astronomical. Because researchers at Harvard University affirm that the human brain will gladly confiscate half of the sugar energy you put into your body. It's only 2% of your mass, but it will gladly confiscate half of the sugar energy you put into your body. So growing up like I did, and you put that big gulp, you put 100 grams of sugar into your body, your brain is inherently going to sop up. I want you to get this. Like, when we're talking about all these different foods and issues with sugar and processed foods in our culture, your brain is really getting the brunt of it. Your brain is really dealing with that sugar infusion more so than anything. It is causing damage, because once all of that sugar is flooding your brain, it creates this insulin resistance in our brain. This, again, is tied to our degradation of what's happening with issues like dementia and Alzheimer's skyrocketing in our culture. It's not out of nowhere, and the researchers said that these things don't just, quote, happen. There's been a shift in what we eat, and we need to be adamant about getting the right information in and doing something about it. Now, this is very important. I want you to listen closely. Not only do we want to provide key nutrients that can cross the blood-brain barrier, the brain security system, and nourish our brain, we also want to be supportive of the brain's security system itself. We want to be supportive of the blood-brain barrier itself, because damage to the blood-brain barrier through things like neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain, exposure to toxins, and nutritional deficiencies, the blood-brain barrier can become dysfunctional over time, not allowing the right things in to even feed your brain in the first place, and also not being good at keeping the wrong things out. And a damaged blood-brain barrier can further exacerbate poor mental performance and cognitive decline. Research cited in the Scientific World Journal reaffirms olive oil's ability to reduce blood-brain barrier hyperpermeability. But another interesting thing is that sufficient intake of monounsaturated fatty acids found in extra virgin olive oil is found to help prevent age-related deletion of mitochondrial DNA in the brain. What? It's protecting mitochondrial DNA in your brain. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Again, these are well known to be energy power plants in our bodies. This is creating the energy that we experience for your brain to fuel itself and to do all these cool processes. And this was cited in Frontiers in Cellular Neuroscience. And researchers at the Rush Institute for Healthy Aging found that people who consumed at least 24 grams of these fats per day had an 80% reduced risk of Alzheimer's compared to those who consumed 15 grams or less. It only takes 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil to hit your daily dose of this high quality, brain protective, monounsaturated fats. It's good stuff. So this is something that directly improves the performance of your brain by protecting the blood-brain barrier. All right, really cool stuff. So this is just one. This is leaning into the importance of high quality fats, but the right types of fats. And I want to share just a couple more critical brain supportive foods for you that's highlighted in Eat Smarter. This one is incredibly interesting because it's a different category. Like, we tend to put this in the category of plants, but it's not in the plant kingdom. It's its own kingdom. And this is the category of mushrooms. A 6-year study found that the inclusion of culinary mushrooms can improve your memory and reduce the risk of age-related cognitive impairment by upwards of 50%. Mushrooms like golden, oyster, white button, and shiitake were all noted to be beneficial in this particular study. Many of these mushrooms are an excellent source of nutrients like potassium, copper, and B vitamins that are known to be supportive of our cognitive performance. 2 to 4 servings of mushrooms per week is a great place to target to get some of these results and to help to improve the function of your cognitive performance, but also to reduce the effects of memory decline. All right, shout out to the mushrooms. All right, and one more I'm going to share with you, and there's an entire list of these clinically proven cognitive performance enhancing foods. This one is really remarkable, and it's highlighted in a study that found that this particular nutrient is able to waltz its way across the blood-brain barrier and increase the activity of the neurotransmitter GABA, which helps to reduce anxiety and makes you feel more centered and relaxed. And this compound is the L-theanine that's found in green tea. A study that was published in the peer-reviewed journal Brain Topography found that L-theanine intake, specifically from green tea, is able to increase the frequency of alpha brain waves, indicating reduced stress, enhanced focus, and increasing creativity. So cool. That's the thing about the human brain. Infinitely complex and infinitely creative. There are solutions to all of our problems. If we can just tap ourselves into the things that actually make our brains work better, we can transform not just our bodies, but our lives and the lives of our communities.